All right, good afternoon. Just to note that at 12:45 today, there'll be a briefing here by our friends from the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs to launch the World Economic Situation and Prospects Report 2026. Speakers will be Assistant Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, Naveed Hanif, along with Shantanu Mukherjee, who is DESA's Director of Economic Analysis and Policy Division, and Ingo Peterle, DESA's Senior Economist, an officer in charge of the Global Economic Monitoring Branch. I have a statement for you, not surprisingly, on the U.S. Decision announced last night. And I can tell you that the Secretary General regrets the announcement by the White House regarding the United States' decision to withdraw from a number of United Nations entities. As we have consistently said and underscored, assess contributions to the United Nations regular budget and the peacekeeping budget as approved by the General Assembly are legal obligations under the United Nations Charter for every member state, including the United States. All United Nations entities will go on with the implementation of their mandates as given to us by member states. The United Nations has a responsibility to deliver for all those who depend on us, and we will continue to carry out our mandates with determination. Quick update for you from Lebanon, because I know you've been asking me, and I think we've seen, like you, the announcement by the Lebanese Armed Forces that they have assumed operational control of the area south of the Litani River. I can tell you that we very much welcome this progress. Our special coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennin-Plashert, remains in contact with all parties to encourage further progress in the implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701, as well as the cessation of hostilities agreement. While more work lies ahead as the Lebanese armed forces move to other phases of the government-approved plan to establish exclusive state control over arms, today's milestone showcases the commitment of the Lebanese army, the Lebanese authorities, and underscores the role of the mechanism established in November 2024's cessation of hostilities agreement. And to give you an example about the work their own peacekeepers have been doing since the cessation of hostilities agreement came into play on November 24th. Our peacekeepers have discovered 405 weapons caches in their area of operations. As per their mandate, these discoveries were reported immediately to the Lebanese army. During the same time, UNIFIL has been conducting thousands of operational activities, including various kinds of foot patrols, vehicle patrols, as well as manning checkpoints, doing escorts, and other work. Just an update for you from, hold on a second, from Syria. And this morning, the Security Council members held a briefing on the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2118 concerning the elimination of chemical weapons programs in the Syrian Arab Republic. Deputy High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, Adedeji Ebo, briefed council members. He reported continuing engagement between the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons and the Syrian authorities, and confirmed the need for sustained international support and the importance of ensuring safe access to the sites located in insecure areas. And turning to the situation on the ground, I can tell you that the Secretary General continues to be gravely alarmed by the escalating hostilities that we're seeing in Aleppo and by the mounting reports of civilian casualties. Tens of thousands of people are reported to have been displaced as the situation continues to deteriorate. And our representatives of the Office of the Special Envoy for Syria continue to be in contact with all concerned parties. Our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs are telling us that as of yesterday, at least 5 civilians, including 2 women and 1 child, were reportedly killed and dozens more injured. That's what local authorities on the ground are telling us. Several health facilities have also been impacted, including Zahi Azarak Hospital, Ibn Rashid Hospital, and Othman Hospital, with some reportedly ceasing operations due to the damage and the attacks. Movement restrictions have been imposed on key roads, and since yesterday morning, thousands of families have fled their homes. Many are seeking shelter with host communities in Aleppo cities and various districts of Afrin. Authorities announced the opening of 2 humanitarian corridors through Awared and Zuhur for civilians to evacuate. Schools, universities, and government institutions have all halted activities. Flights to and from Aleppo International Airport remain suspended as of now. Our humanitarian partners are mobilizing resources to respond to the growing displacement I've just described. Today, a UN team in Aleppo carried out an assessment mission to Yad Alaoun camp in Afrin to evaluate immediate needs and the capacity to respond. Thank you. And our Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, is continuing his travels in the Middle East. He is, in fact, in Syria today. During this leg of his regional visit, he will travel to the Golan Heights to visit members of the UN Disengagement Observer Force. He will also be meeting with Syrian authorities in the capital, Damascus. As you know, Mr. Lacroix spent the last few days in Lebanon, meeting senior officials, visiting UN peacekeepers. He highlighted UNIFIL's ongoing role in preserving stability and advancing the implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701 through the end of its mandate in December of this year. He was also briefed on the mission's work under the challenging conditions and situation along the Blue Line. Following his stay in Syria, he will go on to Jordan and then to Israel, and he will also, while there, visit the headquarters of UNSO, the UN Truce Supervision Organization. Turning to Gaza, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that despite impediments, we and our humanitarian partners continue to support the most vulnerable families that have been affected by the harsh winter conditions and the dire consequences of the past 2 years of this ongoing crisis. Over the past days, one of our partners distributed 7,000 dignity kits, more than 5,600 dignified family hygiene kits, and 1.3 million bars of soap to some 200,000 people in northern and southern Gaza. Our partners providing emergency shelter materials report that in recent days, they've reached more than 16,000 households across Gaza with shelter supplies and other essential items. These included more than 3,300 tents, 8,700 tarpaulins, 300 sealing-off kits to weatherproof the shelters that are, in fact, makeshift shelters, and more than 700 kits to stabilize and reinforce those shelters. To address the needs of the winter, our partners have also distributed 7,000 blankets, 3,900 mattresses, and more than 1,000 bedding kits to improve sleeping conditions for families exposed to cold weather conditions. In addition to more than 2,500 kitchen sets have been distributed, and more than 880 households received clothing assistance through in-kind donations. In-kind modalities, excuse me. Our partners also tell us that water trucking operations are continuing. 36 partners distributing daily more than 21,500 cubic meters of fresh water to some 2,350 water collection points across the Gaza Strip. In parallel, temporary learning spaces continue to expand across the Strip. To date, more than 420 learning spaces are operational, serving more than 230,000 students supported by over 5,500 teachers. Our partners note that scaling up learning spaces for school-aged children remains a critical priority. However, this depends on the timely entry of essential supplies, which continues to be denied by the Israeli authorities, who say that education is not a critical activity during the first phase of the ceasefire, in which we continue to be in. Additionally, renovation work is advancing in public schools. Some 10 classrooms, 2 administrative rooms, and 2 storage facilities have been recently completed in 2 schools in Gaza City, giving more than 1,800 children access to education. On Monday, the World Health Organization facilitated the evacuation of 18 patients and their 36 companions from Karim Abu Salam crossing for medical treatment outside of the Gaza Strip. And just a quick update on what is going on in the West Bank. Our OCHA colleagues say that over the past 2 weeks, dozens of tents and makeshift shelters in Palestinian Bedouin and herding communities across the West Bank have been damaged or destroyed due to severe winter weather. OCHA also warns of ongoing destruction of Palestinian-owned properties by Israeli authorities for lack of Israeli-issued building permits that are nearly impossible for Palestinians to obtain. Over the past 2 weeks, Israeli authorities demolished 50 structures in Area C and East Jerusalem, displacing more than 50 Palestinians and affecting the livelihoods of some 14,000 people. Quick update from Hans Grunberg, our special envoy for Yemen. He is continuing his engagement with Yemeni, regional, and international actors with discussions focused on de-escalation and a Yemeni-led peace process, political process. Today, he concluded a visit to Riyadh, where he met with the president of the Presidential Leadership Council, Rashad al-Alimi, the Yemeni Minister of Foreign Affairs, Shaya Zindani, and other senior Yemeni officials, as well as representatives of the 5 permanent member states of the Security Council. The meetings addressed recent developments in Yemen and their broader implications. The special envoy said the PLC president's call for the Saudi-hosted Southern Dialogue offers a timely opportunity to ease tensions and advance stabilization, stressing the importance of inclusive dialogue for the sake of the country's future and for the sake of its people. And in South Sudan, our colleagues for the Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that a surge in conflict and airstrikes in Jonglei states have forced people to flee their homes. Also, it's disrupted humanitarian operations to serve South Sudanese people. Since the 29th of December, renewed fighting has displaced some 100,000 human beings, mostly women, children, and older people. That's been in several counties. That's what local authorities and our humanitarian partners are telling us. Most of these people are sheltering in remote areas out of fear of further attacks, while others have fled to neighboring states. On Tuesday, authorities in Lakes State said they've registered more than 11,000 people arriving from Jonglei. In northern Jonglei State, several humanitarian organizations have relocated staff due to insecurity, as well as instructions by parties to evacuate the area. Humanitarian organizations continue to operate with local staff reporting growing challenges, including in the restocking of health facilities and sustaining other essential activities. The situation is further compounded by reports from several organizations that their facilities and assets have been looted or confiscated by parties to the conflict. Despite all these challenges, our humanitarian colleagues are continuing to engage with all parties so aid can reach people safely, and people desperately need help. Just as a reminder, last year, more than 715,000 people were displaced by conflict in South Sudan. And lastly, from Ukraine, our humanitarian colleagues on the ground say that authorities are telling us that between yesterday and this morning, attacks across Ukraine killed and injured several civilians while damaging critical energy and port infrastructure in the regions of Dnipro, Odessa, and Zaporizhzhia. Nearly 2 million people have been left without electricity as temperatures have dropped close to 0 Celsius. Our humanitarian colleagues note that heating, water supply, and mobile communications and public electric transport were also disrupted. The mayor of Dnipro City declared a national level emergency due to interruption of basic services. In the city of Kryvyi Rih, also in Dnipro, yesterday's strikes were reportedly among the largest combined attacks since the start of the full-scale war. The humanitarian coordinator for Ukraine, Matthias Schmale, has called for the protection of civilians amid these harsh winter conditions. Nationwide scheduled power outages continue for 4 to 8 hours every day due to the continuing attacks on energy infrastructure. That's what the National Grid operator is telling our colleagues. Humanitarian organizations are responsible for distributing emergency shelter materials, winter supplies, warm blankets, and by providing heating points and psychosocial support to help impacted people. I have no births from colleagues to report today, so we'll go straight to questions. Edie, sorry.
Thank you, Steph. Can you tell us how a country can withdraw from the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, which is an integral part of the UN Secretariat, or, for example, the Office of the Special Representative on Children in Armed Conflict?
That's a question you need to ask the country that announced its withdrawal. We saw, as part of the list, a withdrawal from a couple of treaty organizations. Those obviously, there are legal steps for that. I checked with our legal counsel earlier today. We had not received any official letter related to that. Michelle?
Thanks, Steph. On that list of UN entities, how many of those are funded by assessed contributions?
I think a large number of them are funded by assessed contributions. It's no secret to tell you that the funding of UN entities varies because some have core funding that comes out of the regular budget, with the vast majority of their work then being funded voluntarily. We have not received any further official communication beyond what was posted on the White House website yesterday. Amélie.
Sorry. Thanks, Steph. Just two follow-ups on that. You mentioned the ordinary budget, the regular budget, sorry. Can you confirm that the US didn't pay anything last year, 2025?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And secondly, one of the main treaties that the US withdrew from is the UNFCCC. You didn't mention any specific entities in your statement, but the Secretary General have been always vocal about climate, and on the whole list of entities mentioned in the list yesterday, there are a lot of them are targeting climate change, biodiversity, renewable energy. So do you have any comment? Is the Secretary General particularly worried on this trend from the US? Thank you.
Listen, our work goes on. Our determination to fight climate change, our determination to help support those people who are most impacted by climate change continues. There's also a huge role for the private sector, and that engagement continues. So, as I said, whether it's on climate, whether it's on the protection of children from violence, whether it's on the agenda on gender issues, we continue our work with determination. Deji, then Gabriel.
Yeah. Also follow up on the withdrawal of the U.S. So in the statement, the Secretary General emphasized the obligation of paying the regular and peacekeeping budget. So can I understand it as even U.S. announced that they withdraw from all those subsidiary departments of the Secretariat, they still have to pay their contribution in full. Is that correct?
Contributions to the budget, the regular budget, and the peacekeeping budget are treaty obligations. The operative word being obligations, right? It's in the charter, right? So member states who've who've joined this club have to pay the dues, right? And they are assessed dues, and then there are voluntary dues.
In recent statements, the Secretary General always said that the UN Charter is not a la carte menu. Is the UN itself a la carte menu? Like we can join this, we can withdraw this.
The charter is not a la carte, as we said, and the chart. We're not going to renegotiate the charter.
But then the UN itself, is that a la carte?
The UN is an organization of 193 member states, 2 observer states. It is in the interest of all these member states and the 2 observers to defend the principles that they themselves have created. Gabriel, I'll come back to you, Deji. Okay. Gabriel.
Thank you, Steph. Was anyone at the UN, at the Secretariat's office, informed of this before the announcement was made?
No. It is not that I'm aware of at the highest levels. Yeah.
And then it's no secret that the U.S. under Trump has pulled out of several different UN-affiliated organizations or UN agencies in the past, and even in this term. But the number this time seems to have surprised a lot of people. Did it surprise the Secretary General?
I think the Secretary General, in terms of what's going on in the world today, is beyond surprised. I mean, beyond the term surprise. I think he's very clear-eyed. He continues to be very determined. We've seen how some member states have acted under his, while he was a Secretary General. He continues, I would say, with calm and determination. I spent quite a time with him this morning, and he is determined as ever to continue his work and continuing to defend the Charter and continuing to defend this international institution. Murad.
Thank you, Stephen. Just follow up. So, what are the tools that does the UN have now to respond when a permanent member disregards these legal obligations?
Look, I'm sure you've read the Charter like I've read the Charter. The Secretary General is a chief administrative officer. He's being tasked by member states to run this organization, to manage it. And this Secretary General has managed it extremely well in very difficult financial circumstances, right? We have some big member states who have not been paying. We have others who pay late. We have to reimburse, even at the end of the year when we've saved money, we have to reimburse every member state, even those who haven't paid. So it's a challenging bit. Member states who sign on to treaties have an obligation to abide by them. Alex.
Thanks, Steph. A quick follow-up. So did you reach out to the U.S. mission for the explanation of their decision?
No, we're waiting. You know, we have yet to receive any official communication. When we will receive it, we'll look at it. But as I say, we're continuing on with our work.
May I have one more?
You may have one more.
On Venezuela. So Venezuela's interior minister said that 100 people were killed in the U.S. operation. Any comments on that?
I mean, obviously, that's, I think, as the smoke clears, those kind of numbers are very concerning indeed. Pan and then Abdelhamid.
Thank you, Steph. So does the United Nations has a back plan to handle the financial pressure caused by the U.S. withdrawal from so many UN entities?
Well, we've been managing under this financial pressure for some time, right? As I told Amélie, the U.S. didn't pay in last year. Other member states paid later than we had expected. He has to juggle financial cash flow that I think would make the head spin of any CEO or head of government. It's very complicated. Our comptroller, I think, doesn't sleep at all as he tries to keep the lights on in this building.
Okay, thank you. And a second question, please. In the statement issued by the White House, the White House said that the UN entities promote global governance and something like that are contrary to the U.S. interest. So it seems that the United States wants to handle international affairs by its own instead of international organizations. So is the SG worried about this? Thank you.
Look, I will have to ask you to ask the United States for their motivation, or any other member states that decides to withdraw from certain entities. We believe in this organization, which is not a global government. It is an organization of sovereign member states. The Secretary General respects the sovereignty of each of the members of this organization. And he also strongly believes that the challenges that we face today can only be solved through international cooperation. And that's been his view since he started on day one, and it continues to be his view. Abdelhamid.
Thank you, Stéphane. U.S. Secretary of State issued a statement yesterday that the U.S. has the right to attack anywhere in the world, not only Greenland. Do you have any comment on that?
Our comment is the same one that we've been giving repeatedly, is that we believe in the articles of the Charter and the need for member states to avoid, for countries to avoid the use of force in settling international affairs.
My second question, 20 families had been evicted from their homes in northern part of Jericho. They belong to the Bedouin tribes of Mlehat and Kaabna. Are you aware of these?
I mean, I just updated you on the information we have from the West Bank, and we've been doing that. Now more than Ibtisam, then Stefano.
Thank you, Stefan. Do you have more details to give us on who at the United Nations contacted who in Syria within the Syrian government, or have you been in touch with the SDF as well regarding Aleppo?
Yeah, I mean, the contacts are being run through the Office of Special Envoy, and they're in touch with the government, the SDF, and whoever else they need to be involved in, engaged in. I don't have names or levels, but I know the engagement is ongoing.
Do you believe that the Secretary General will talk to Syrian government officials?
I think the Secretary General is always ready to reach out at the most appropriate moment.
Okay, one last question on, I mean, given the pattern of repeated attacks against minority groups in Syria, first Druze, then the Alawites, now the Kurds, allegedly by forces affiliated with the Syrian government, what's your response to critics who argue that the international community, including the Secretary General, moved too quickly to confer legitimacy on Syria's new Islamist leaders?
We are not, the Secretary General is not in the business of recognition. He's not in the business of conferring legitimacy, whatever that may mean. Let me finish. It's sort of a rhetorical question. It was a question, but I'm not asking you to answer it. The UN deals with whoever is in power to try to solve problems. There is a government in Syria. We've been working with them to try to help them. It is important that the government ensures that everyone in Syria, whether Kurd, Alawite, Christian, any other minority, or whether religious or ethnic, feel protected. And that continues to be our message. That's the message that the Secretary General delivered when he met with Mr. al-Shara here at the UN in September. Ibtisam. I'll get to you in a second, sir. Go ahead, Ibtisam.
Thank you, Steph.
I'll get to you in a second. Go ahead.
You said that the UN, that the US didn't pay its dues last year. Which implication would this have for them in their role in the UN?
Well, the charter is clear, right, about what happens when a country doesn't pay its dues for a certain number of years. It's Article 19. So it's not a decision of the Secretary General. It's in the charter, and it implies that at some point a country may lose its vote in the General Assembly.
And that will take how many, like?
I think that number will be triggered automatically at a certain point. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm MD Ahad from Ekhon TV, Bangladesh. I have two questions. The UN won't send observer to Bangladesh without them.
The UN will?
The UN won't send observer to Bangladesh. Without them, how can the UN ensure the free and fair election? And what specific technical support will you provide to ensure free and fair vote?
It's not that the UN won't send observers. The UN does not send observers to elections unless there is a certain mandate given to us by one of the legislative bodies. The UN office in Bangladesh has been working with the government to give technical support to ensure the broadest possible participation, to ensure that the election goes well.
What kind of technical support?
I'll get back to you on that as soon as I have the information.
And my second question is UN report say over 1,400 people were killed under Sheikh Hasina, and she is now convicted. What specific action can UN take to ensure her punishment?
Well, it is the UN is not the justice system in Bangladesh. I think our High Commissioner for Human Rights has spoken out very clearly on that issue, and we'll refer you to those statements. Stefano, then Linda.
Thank you, Stefan. I've been reading this statement because yesterday when you announced it, I was thinking there was going to come up something more than what we just read. It's not only a question, c'est pas son l'argent. It's not only a question of money.
Je comprends, yeah.
Yeah, it's not only a question of money, but the Secretary General here speaks basically about money. Why the Secretary General, after all is happening, why, and his last few months here, isn't it time to take the gloves off and say how things stand? And, this is the death of multilateralism. This organization was created by the United States. So isn't it time, also because this statement is not for us, right? It's for the public out there. And the only people that can fix what's happening is the American people. Why this statement doesn't address the American people, and why there is not really...
Stefano, if there is an obituary for multilateralism, you can write it. Antonio Guterres will not write it. Linda.
Thank you, Steph. Apropos of this same issue, I was wondering, has the SG met with or planned to meet with, for example, Ambassador Waltz, or even invite President Trump to New York?
The contacts with the U.S. are continuing on a whole host of other matters, including on Venezuela, on Haiti, on humanitarian. I mean, we had Mr. Fletcher, I think in Geneva, do a joint press conference with a senior official in the State Department on the $2 billion in humanitarian aid. So the contacts with the U.S. are continuing all sorts of files. The White House made this announcement. We're going on with our work.
No, but I meant in regard specifically,
Well, let's get some official
clarification,
communication. But we're not here to negotiate.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing regarding Article 19, which of course after 2 years or so you lose your vote in the GA. However, does a government lose its vote in the Security Council?
The Article 19 is clear. It only refers to the General Assembly.
So theoretically, you could remain a member of the United Nations, not pay your dues, but stay in the Security Council.
Linda Fasulo, you are the author of multiple editions of the UN Handbook. I think you don't need me to answer that question. Deji.
Right. A couple of days ago, I asked you about the relevance of the UN. My own take is that UN is a scapegoat of the geopolitical divisions. But now with all this announcement from the White House, how much negative impact do you think for the people out there to see the UN? How much of a negative impact to have for those people to have their confidence in the UN?
Well, what the Secretary General is doing, what he's leading this organization to ensure that the people in Somalia see those UN trucks with food, right? That people impacted by climate change see UN experts there to help them. That human rights monitors are able to deploy where they need to deploy. We continue to focus our work in the field. And, this is an organization of member states, but these member states represent the global population. And it should not be just up to the Secretary General to defend the organization. We depend on civil society, we depend on people, we depend on the private sector, and the other members of this organization who should be defending it vocally. Ephraim, and then Benno.
Thank you so much. Maybe the same question asked differently again. Beyond the financial implications of this decision, what do you think are the repercussions would be of this decision on the work of the United Nations?
Look, we're obviously going to analyze it, but and I would encourage all of you to also analyze it, but our work will continue. Benno.
Thank you. So same topic. Do you think, even though it sounds like science fiction, that the U.S. might go even further and leave the United Nations altogether? Do you have any indications for that?
I'm not a clairvoyant, and I have no clue what's going to happen in the next hour. let alone next year. Again, these are analysis questions that you, as a journalist who knows the UN very well, can write.
Okay,
but
then
I will not
question.
go there and predict the future.
Not an analysis question. Do you have any indication, for example, from talks with the U.S. mission that there is still some more in the pipeline?
We don't know. Let's be honest. I just want to answer our friend from Bangladesh about the electoral process. That we deployed a needs assessment mission in January regarding electoral assistance and in response to a formal request from the Bangladeshi Election Commission. Our electoral assistance is always guided by the principles of national ownership, inclusiveness, transparency, and sustainability. While we encourage and support member states' effort to comply with their international obligations and commitments, the UN refrains from commenting on the validity of an electoral process or the legitimacy of electoral outcomes. We do not have a mandate to observe the upcoming parliamentary elections. We are, however, supporting the Electoral Commission through a project called Ballot. Ballot focuses on strengthening the institutional and operational capacities of the Electoral Commission, supporting voter and civic education programs, promoting the inclusion and participation of vulnerable and underrepresented groups, including minorities, youth and first-time voters, persons with disabilities, and older people, advancing women's empowerment and gender equality across all electoral and civic processes, promoting media development, freedom of expression, and initiatives to counter misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. Now we go to Michelle.
Thanks, Steph. Given the SG's background in refugees and whatnot, and migration, does he have any reaction to the shooting in Minnesota yesterday?
I mean, listen, I think anyone who's seen the video has to be troubled, to say the least. We understand that there is an investigation going on at the federal level. We will wait for that to play out, and we hope that people will be held to account. Abdelhamid, then Alex.
Thank you again. Our question, Steph, is if the SG is truly concerned about what's going on with multilateralism, when he sees a sovereign country like the U.S. go snatch a leader from his home, when you see like Israel go recognize a separate entity in Somalia, when you see these violations of multilateralism and respect of the child, how much he's concerned about the validity of the UN?
I would encourage you to read the speeches he delivers in front of the General Assembly. I mean, with the clear message to member states to uphold the charter. As he said, I mean, this is not a la carte, right? His job is to focus on these issues. It doesn't. And he can do two things at once: focus on these issues, remind member states of their obligations, but also not be in a state of panic as he manages this organization. Alex and Evelyn.
Thanks, Steph. A quick follow-up on Venezuela. I guess a couple days ago you mentioned that you're in touch with Venezuela's Delcy Rodriguez. Any updates on that?
No, I said that our teams on the ground. Our team on the ground is in touch with the government. If I have anything more to share, I will share that with you. Evelyn.
Thank you, Steph. Can you remind us when can a country lose a vote? Do they have to owe a lot of money?
I would refer you to Article 19. That's my reminder. Excellent. I will leave you with our friends from DESA because I am done.